Hi everyone, and welcome to another reMarkable video. Today we're going to look into how to import your custom templates, how to make your templates, and how to put them into reMarkable without the use of any custom software that requires you to pay or anything like that. So basically it's like an empowering session that will teach you how to do this on your own. First things first, there are some prerequisites and basically skill levels that you need in order to be able to do this. So if you are a person that you would characterize yourself as tech savvy and you know a lot about SFTP, SSH protocols and all of these kinds of things, and you know what the .json file is and how the format of the .json file is, then you can just follow the link below for the instructions on how to do this. However, if all of the stuff or most of the stuff that I just said is like, what? Then this video is pretty much for you. However, if you find yourself in a skill level that when you operate the computer you are not comfortable with folder operations, copying files, pasting files, you don't know what an extension is, like what a PNG or an exe file is or anything like that, and if you find yourself that you can't find files where you've saved them and you're continually looking for them, and you don't feel comfortable with basic file operations on a PC, then I would recommend that you do not follow these steps. This is not for you. So there is that kind of cutoff point, because it's not going to be safe for you to do this on your own, because you will be entering directly into the reMarkable's brain and it is possible to screw things up. So it's simply not safe for such types of operations. You need a certain level of confidence with the file operations, creating folders, moving things from one folder to another, and if you are comfortable with that type of operation, then by all means follow, and this is definitely the guide for you. So with all of that being said, let's get going. So what are the requirements in order for you to be able to do this? Well, you need 4 things. Number 1, most obviously, is the reMarkable. So you need a reMarkable device. Number 2, you will need a software that will allow you to easily connect to your reMarkable in a specific format and way. And the easiest one and a free one to use is something called the WinSCP, and I'm including the link below, and a tutorial will cover installation and use of that program. So you will need WinSCP or SCP or equivalent FTP type of program. Then you will need an actual image editing capable software that's able to save PNG files at least, or PNG and SVG files. So PNG files to save because you need a way to create your custom templates. Check. And the last one is not obligatory but is highly recommended. Small note editing program that's called Notepad++. And why would I recommend this one? Well, because we will be going into slight code type of language. Don't be afraid, really easy, really easy to manage, and I'll explain what's what, so hopefully you'll feel comfortable about it. But if you use Notepad++, it will make that process even easier because it will visually tell you certain things. It will just make things a little bit easier. However, by no means is it a requirement. You can do the exact same thing in every other software. It's just slightly easier. Those are the requirements. Now we are ready for step 1. Alright, let's do this one step at a time, and I'm gonna try and explain things as simply and clearly as possible, so that regardless of your computer savvy level and confidence, my goal is to make you feel comfortable in doing this and understanding what it is that you actually are doing, so that you are comfortable in repeating these steps and getting your custom templates into the reMarkable. So of course some of the things might seem a little bit scary, but just hang in there. I'm pretty sure that you can do this. First step we're gonna do is to actually download the software that we need. So the first one that we need is called WinSCP. That's one of the ones that I could recommend, but you can use any other as FTP protocol type of program. The idea behind it is that this program will make it a lot easier for you to log in and to connect to the reMarkable device from your PC. Let's do that. And if you follow the link below, there's a listed link below there that will get you to the winscp.net. Now, once you're on that website, don't click on this big one here, just click on the download now button. And once you click on that one, it's going to again give you some advertisements. Do not click on any of them, just scroll a little bit down and get the download WinSCP 5.15.9 is the current version when I'm doing this. So once you click on that, it's going to tell you, it's going to give you to another page. You don't need to click anything there, you just need to wait a little bit and then it will give you a link. So I've already downloaded it and I have it, but yeah, just for the sake of it, let's download again. And when you click to install, you will get this option. So let me just now get myself back into the picture. And yeah, there's a couple of things that you should keep in mind. This is of course optional, right? But I'm not a big fan of the data collection practices that are becoming a standard. It's something that I'm simply not comfortable with. So there is a step here that of course it will tell you, by default, it will tell you full upgrade. For me it says upgrade because it's already installed, but for you it's going to just say full installation or custom installation. I want you to go to custom installation, and when you are at this option here, if you do not have your WinSCP application installed, you will have a sub option here that says anonymous collection of data. I personally have chosen to deselect that because of the reasons that I mentioned. However, I leave it completely up to you what you will do. After that, when you click next, it installs, and that's pretty much it. I am not going to install, I'm just going to exit the setup at this point. And that's your WinSCP program installed. The next one that we should install is my personal favorite for text editing, and that's called the Notepad++. Also, the link is going to be down below. And yeah, you just follow the link and it's very, very straightforward. You just click on the latest release and you find if you want a 32-bit or a 64-bit package. Chances are, if you have more than 4 GB of RAM, you are running a 64-bit system. If you are not running, if you don't have 8 GB of RAM, if you have 4 or less, then you should check your operating system so that you can see if you're running a 32-bit or a 64-bit application. So for me, it's a 64-bit, so I'm just gonna go for the installer. And we're gonna wait a little while, and then I'm just gonna go save. Once it's saved, I'm going to install, and in my case I already have it installed, but I have an older version installed, so this is simply going to go through all of this. And in here it's all pretty much good, so I don't need any localization here. Everything is pretty much good, so I can just go and install it. So that's now installed, and now we have both WinSCP and Notepad++ installed. Great, let's go to the next step. Right, so the next step, now that you have your primary programs installed, you should go to your image editing software where you will actually create your custom template. For me, that's Photoshop, but for you it can be whatever. There are plenty of other free alternatives that you can use and that have very, very similar functionalities. Let's cover the template requirements. You can't just go ahead and draw anything you want at any size and then just upload and hope for the best. That's not a good way to go about it. it's good to actually know what are the specifications of the template file for the reMarkable, so that you can get best possible results and that you get accurate results. Why is this important? So that you don't have any scaling, so that the reMarkable doesn't get confused and sometimes even won't actually allow you to have a different type of file. So just to be absolutely sure and that you get the best results, the number one thing is to know the requirements of the size for the reMarkable template. You need to create a blank new file that's 1404 pixels wide and 1872 pixels tall. So let's just go do that, and there we go. So we have our blank canvas. That's good, but there's one more thing that we should be aware of, and that's the side panel on the left side of the device. The width of that side toolbar is exactly 120 pixels, and in Photoshop you can actually set that up differently. So I've set up my rulers as pixels, and I'm just going to set up a new guide that's going to be at 120 pixels, right? So this is the indication of where my toolbar is, and this helps a lot in understanding how your template will look, so that you don't have to do any guesswork or anything like that. It's the same thing if it's a vertical layout, then it's going to be 120 pixels here. If it's a landscape layout, then it's going to be 120 pixels from the bottom. Alright, so now that I have my guideline there, I'm going to switch myself off here so that you can see everything. And the very first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to add a new layer that's on top of my background. And everything I draw, my entire layout is going to be on this layer here, which I'm going to call template, or layout or template, it doesn't matter. So template here. And now I'm gonna draw everything. So I'm just gonna make a 1 pixel wide brush, and I'm gonna just draw a simple line here. Once that's drawn and nice and tidy, I'm just gonna clear my guides, and I have my line here, which should correspond to the toolbar. So that's like a test thing to see if it is exactly 120 pixels wide. All right, so that's good. Now the next thing is, remember, we are still in the template. I'm not leaving the template layer. That's very important. Next, I'm just gonna do my drawings. So this is the place where you get creative and you create your own template how you need it. For the purposes of this tutorial, I'm simply going to draw some lines. It really doesn't matter. I'm just gonna draw a couple of lines so that it looks, yeah, like something that we can test. At this point, I really don't care what it looks like. I'm simply drawing lines, and that's pretty much it. Let's say that this is my template, and maybe I can add, I don't know, let's add a vertical line here and another one here. Yeah, so that's my template. And now let's just erase these guys. And in this case, I'm just gonna draw a little marquee all the way up to the line and just delete those. Good. So that's my template, and let's say that that's what I like. When saving, there's a couple of recommendations that I'd like to mention. So the first one is, why did we make it into layers? Well, simply because we're dealing with a PNG format, and there's a limited amount of space that's allowed for the templates, unless you want to get into a much more complicated story with relocating a root folder and blah, blah, blah. That's a different thing. I'm talking about full-on default behavior without messing anything up. So the idea is that you hide your bottom layer completely, and all you save is the lines that you have drawn or the text that you wrote. And that doesn't help too much, but it helps a little bit with the size. So once we have our transparency layer in a setup like that, so that we are only saving our template that we've drawn, then I can go to Save As. And in the Save As option, of course, this will be different depending on the application that you are using. But when you're going to save or save as, you need to find your PNG format and you need to save as your PNG format. Now, when saving your PNG, your template, there's a recommendation that I would like to suggest regarding your naming. So the naming convention in programming world is that you should try and avoid spaces. So instead of a space, if you have a multi-word type of template, let's say my YouTube template, well, that's what we're going to be calling. So instead of going my space YouTube space template, there are two generally accepted guidelines. First one is no spaces at all and just capitalization of each of the new words. So in this case it would be like this, my YouTube template. If that's something that you don't like, this is my personal recommendation. This is what I always use. If that's something that you don't like, then you can use the underscores instead of spaces, but that is a little bit, it's your preference. Just remember what it is that you're using. I like to use personally this, so I'm just simply going to name it my YouTube template with the capitalization of each separate word. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So now I'm going to click save, and depending on, again, on your software, you should get some options about how you want to save your PNG format. And the PNG format is just a compression type of format that it compresses your image information into something smaller so that it's more manageable. And naturally, what we want to go for is the smallest file size. Now remember, PNG is a really efficient compressing format, and you don't get a lot of loss in quality between large file size or smallest file size. The major difference between the two is the amount of time it needs to save. However, on files of this size and complexity, it really doesn't matter. It's negligible. So I'm going to use smallest file size, and I would recommend that you do that as well. So I'm going to click on save. It has saved, and now if I go to my folder where I saved it, which would be my YouTube template, you can see that it is quite small. It's just 38 kilobytes. So all is ready, and now I have my template. Let's go on to the next step. Okay, we're getting there. So now we have the programs that we need. We've created our template. Now it's time to actually connect to the reMarkable via the WinSCP software, and to actually establish that connection and find where it is that we need to place our file. And this is the tricky part. It can be tricky if you're not too tech savvy, but I hope that after watching this video and following these instructions, you won't find it intimidating or hard at all. One word of warning before we even get into this. Once you establish a connection to these folders, you do not want to mess around with any of the files. You don't want to delete anything accidentally, or rename anything accidentally, or move anything accidentally. Those are not things that you want to do, because you are actually going into the heart and the brain of your reMarkable system. And if you do something that's unintentional or accidental, you may cause, you can block your reMarkable, which is not fun at all. So yes, you can screw things up, but I'm a firm believer that if you're careful and you methodically follow things step by step, and you know what you're doing, you won't screw anything up. The only time when you actually will screw things up is if you are speeding through things and you assume things. Do not assume anything here. So just follow along and you should be fine. Don't be scared, just be careful. So now we're gonna open up, I've already opened up WinSCP, and once you open it up, the first thing it's gonna ask you is this thing, login. We need to log into a new site. and I can rename this site into something else or blah blah blah, but I don't really care about that. What I do care about are these three fields here: host name, username, and password. So what are these? Host name is the IP address, or the address where you will tell the program and your computer where to find the reMarkable. Now, depending on how you are connecting to your reMarkable, there are two main IP addresses that you can use. If you are using a USB connection and you have connected via USB in a computer, you will see in the place that I describe in the next step, you will see an IP address that starts with the number 10. If you are connecting to your Wi-Fi via your Wi-Fi and network, then you will see the IP address starting with the number 192. Where do we find all of this data? Well, if you go to your reMarkable, go to settings, and then you go to about, and you make sure that you're in copyrights and licenses, general information, slide the contents all the way down, and at the very bottom you will find the information that we are looking for. Mainly, you will first find that the username is root and the password is something, 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 something. And the IP addresses available to connect to are listed below. And those are the IP addresses that I mentioned. In my case, it's listing only 192.dot blah, blah, blah. But this is simply because I'm connected only via a Wi-Fi. If you do connect it with a USB as well, you will have another IP address there. I'm using Wi-Fi simply because of the convenience. I don't like cables. So I'm going to input my IP address that I see here, and for me this is the IP address that I have. Port number I won't touch, that's basically just what it is. Now username, as it says, username is root, no capitalizations, everything is small case, and the password is going to be what it tells me it is. So I'm just gonna retype the password here. It is case sensitive, so you have to be mindful of what it is that you are typing in. And once I have this typed in, I'm just going to press login. Now, I've already logged in once, but the very first time you're logging in, you will have a warning screen that tells you, do you want to trust this device? This might not be the device that it's claiming it is to be. I'm not going to go into tech-savvy details of what it is, and it's basically something called SSH keys and key pairs and blah blah blah. There is a way to do this, but there's really no need. Once you establish the connection the first time, you just tell it, yes, I trust this device, this is my reMarkable, and you will be presented with this option here. One note again, when I installed the WinSCP, I kept everything at default, and one of the options was the appearance. Will it look like File Explorer or Windows Commander? Windows Commander is an old file commander type that actually goes from Norton Commander from DOS in pre-Windows era. Anywho, it's a very, very handy type of layout that gives you two sources at the same time, and it's quite easy to find things around. So in my case, I can just go here into my pictures, and I know that I can arrange by when things were changed, and I can see that this is on my computer here. I have my template that we saved before, right? My YouTube template. Great. So this is my computer on the left. On the right, this is the reMarkable. So now we are in the reMarkable. And everything that you do in this right-hand window, the one that says home root, and it says log.txt, this is where it matters that you don't mess things up. This is the part where it really matters what you do and how you click things. So yeah, you need to be careful and mindful of what you're doing, but not afraid. Don't be afraid of it, just be mindful and confident of what it is that you're going to be doing. So now that we have established successfully our connection to the reMarkable and we are in the reMarkable, we need to find our templates folder. We have to locate that, and it's not there by default. You have to go a little bit out and then locate it. So The first thing that we need to go is double click on these two dots here and an arrow that actually shows like to an left and up, and that just means go up out of that hierarchy, out of that folder into the parent folder. So if you double click it, we are out. So we need to double click once more, we need to go out once more because we have to go to the home directory of the reMarkable. And this is the home directory of your reMarkable. Now, where is our template? Well, our template is in the folder. We first locate the folder called USR or user. Once we're in user, then we go to share. Once you are in share, locate the folder called reMarkable. So we're just going to go here, reMarkable, double click on it as well. Once we are here, this is our reMarkable. Now, and here's our template folder. But before you go into your template folder, I would like you to create a safe backup of this folder. And you can create that very easily by simply drag and drop somewhere in your wherever you want it. In this case, I'm just going to simply drag and drop it over here. It's going to now copy, and once it's done, I have my default templates copied in a safe place. This is just a safety policy in case something goes wrong, in case you get confused or anything like that, that you can just easily copy back all of these files into your templates folder and you have it restored pre-accident, right? Just a safety policy. So once you have your backup done, and remember, we've just dragged and dropped the entire template folder. That's all of its contents. And remember where you stored it. That's the important part. So now that we've located that, we can go into the templates and voila. These are all of our templates, and you can see that they're like PNG and SVG formats, and you can choose to how you want to create. The PNG format is much easier than the SVG format. SVG format is a lot smaller, so it depends on what your skill level is and what your application levels are. This is where we will be storing our templates. Alright, so now that we are in our templates folder in the reMarkable, we need to copy our template into this folder. And it's a simple matter of case as dragging from your computer folder into here anywhere and just release it, and it's so fast that it's not gonna even show you anything, but it has copied. Just double check here. So if I slide down, here it is. I can see my YouTube template, right? So we're good. Except there's one more step that we have to do. We have our PNG on the reMarkable, but now we have to tell reMarkable that it has a new template. And we do this in the next step. Now that you have your template file in the reMarkable, we have to tell reMarkable what it's looking for and that it actually has a new template. Don't be afraid, you don't have to be a programmer to understand this. I'm gonna guide you safely and very, very carefully through the step, and it's quite easy. I'm pretty sure that you can do this. So what I want you to do is first locate in the reMarkable templates folder the file called Templates.json, and then I want you to open it, and in this case we need to open it with our Notepad++, if that is something that you have installed. Why do we want to use Notepad++? Because it makes the editing of the code a tiny bit easier, especially for a new beginner. But if you don't have the Notepad++, it really doesn't matter. It's not that difficult, as you will see. So you just need to double click on it, and it opens up, in my case, it opens up the Notepad++, and this is our templates file. And you'll see something that maybe looks scary, but if you take a closer look at it, you'll see that it's quite simple. So all it says is, what are my templates? I have templates, and within each of these curly brackets, as you can see, a small line, each of these curly brackets is basically telling reMarkable this is a new template, And this new template has a name and it's called blank. It's the file name that I'm looking for, or the PNG file that I'm looking for, is called blank. Which icon am I going to be using? Which category I'm going to place it in? And yeah, pretty much that's all there is. So the safest and easiest thing to do is to simply scroll all the way down and copy the last one. I already have one of the test templates, but let's ignore that one for a while because it's there for a reason. I want to show you something how to remove templates later. But in your case, it's probably going to be perspective 2. That's the last one, all the way at the bottom. You just scroll all the way down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select before you won't have a comma here. You will just have a curly bracket at the end. So I'm just going to select the curly bracket and all the way up to the parent curly bracket, so that it's this section here. And I'm going to include the comma from before. Now this comma is very important because it tells reMarkable there's another element after this. Otherwise it's going to be an error and you don't want that. You really need to pay attention to this comma. So where do we paste this? So now I have selected all of this and I'm going to press Ctrl C for copy, or right click and copy. Now I'm going to select and place my cursor right after the last curly bracket here of the last element. Right, you're with me? So the last element, it goes like this, and the curly bracket here. Not the square bracket, not the very last curly bracket there, but the curly bracket of the last element or the last template. My cursor is there and I'm just going to press Ctrl V or paste. So when I paste, I'm going to get that all-important comma and I'm going to get the new template container pasted. And now all I need to do is decide how to name it, where to place it, and what to do. So the name is simply your display name of the template that you've created. So let's now call it, and this one can be called anything that you want, and you can contain spaces safely here. So I'm just going to call it my YouTube template, right? Okay. Now file name. This is the file name without the extension, so you don't have the PNG extension there. You just have the file name how we've called our name, our template file, and this is where it needs to be typed in. Now it needs to be typed in exactly how you have it, otherwise it won't be found. So we are going to look for our, there we go, my YouTube template. I'm just gonna click on it once. So how do I get this? I'm just gonna click on it once and wait, and then I'm gonna click on it once again and wait a little bit, and Windows will automatically select the file name for me. So I'm going to copy by doing Ctrl C or right click and copy. And now I'm gonna go back into my notepad, and in here file name, I'm going to delete the old file name, and I'm going to right click and paste the file name of my template. That's pretty much it. The rest you really don't have to change, but you can once you get more comfortable with these things. I recommend that you once you become comfortable with all of this, you start exploring which icon is it that you want to use, what's the code for the icon that you might want to use, how are the categories named, where and how you would like to organize these things. And also once you've done this once or twice, I would highly recommend that you go to that wiki leak or re-wiki leak that I mentioned at the beginning and that's listed down below, which explains the steps, because this is where you will be able also to define the landscape mode and everything else. And hopefully after this tutorial you will be able to feel a lot more comfortable with what's written there and to understand where to add what. So basically, if the landscape is not contained here, then you will not have any landscape. It will default to portrait mode. However, if you scroll around and you find some of the landscape templates that already exist, you will notice that all you need to do in order to make your landscape, your template work as a landscape, you simply need to add landscape equals true line as selected here. You simply need to copy that and include it here between the icons code and the categories. And that's all it is. If it's excluded, reMarkable will assume that it's in portrait mode. So pretty straightforward. All right, so now we have our YouTube template, and before saving, I want to double check. Always double check. So is my name the one that I want it to be? Yep. All right, most importantly, is my file name correct? So double check, triple check, whatever it is, whatever makes you comfortable. Make sure that you're using the correct icon code. For me, I'm just going to use maybe this code. I don't know. I really don't care. It's just a preview thing, and so I'm just going to copy it here. So this is the code that I'm going to be using. It's going to be a portrait mode, so I don't have landscape, and the categories, I'm just going to leave it in creative. That's pretty much fine. So I've double checked my data, and now I'm ready to save. So I'm just going to go Control S to save. Now it has been saved, and once it has been saved, I will close it. I will close my Notepad++, and now I'm safe to close my whatever it's called, WinSCP as well. If you really want to double check after saving, you can again open your JSON templates and double check if everything that you've entered here is saved. In my case, yes, it is. So I'm safe to move forward. Let's close this down. Yep, I'm going to break the connection, and I'm ready to go and move on to the reMarkable. So now that you've actually created your template and placed it into reMarkable, if you were to check right now, you won't be able to find it. There's one more step that you have to do, and that's to turn off your reMarkable. So you press and hold until it says turn off. You go full on powered off, and once that's done, then you power it back up. And when it's powered back up, then we're gonna test and see where our template is and how does it look like. The reason why you need to restart is simply for reMarkable to reload that template.json file. And yeah, it's just a good practice to do these kinds of things. And once we are restarted, I'm just gonna go into quick sheets. And now if I go into my base layer, and I select a template, if you remember, we've been in creative. So if I click on creative, I can now zoom in. Here is our new template. This is the icon that I was using, and so that's the icon that I changed, right? And those are the icon codes that we talked about. So your template will never show exactly what your template looks like because it's using default icons that are a set of reMarkable itself. However, my YouTube template is called there, and once I press, you will be able to see that this is exactly what we made before, right? And the important part here is the line for the toolbar. So you can see that those 120 pixels are exactly correct, and it coincides with the toolbar precisely. So with that info, you will be able to create precise and controlled templates every single time. Okay, so that's all great. Now you know how to place templates, how to create your templates, and how to put them in reMarkable. Good job. Really, really good job. Now, there's one last step that you need to know, and that's basically how to remove templates that you don't want. So let's say that you've added templates and they didn't work out. You want to change the design a little bit. You can do one of two things. If you're just simply changing and updating your template, an existing template that you've already made, and you follow this process and it works, and you just need to adjust a line here and there or anything like that, all you need to do is simply resave the file, overwrite it onto your PC using the exact same name, that's the important part, and then replace the PNG file in your reMarkable templates folder. And because you've already done everything else, it will just simply work properly, because the code in the Templates.json file will tell reMarkable, look for that file under that name, and that's all it needs to do. However, if you've created a template that you no longer want at all, it's a two-step process. So step one is, of course, to log into your reMarkable, and I'm gonna reconnect here. There we go. So, and you go out all the way to home like before. We locate our user, share, reMarkable, templates. And in this case, there is a particular test file that I want to delete, and it's called my test template. I no longer want it. So the first thing you want to do is to delete the actual template, right? So I'm just going to delete my test template. Good. But that's not enough, because as you remember, we need to also let reMarkable know where the templates are, and also we have to remove the template information if we no longer use it. So I have to follow the same rules as before. I'm going to open up the Templates.json, and in it I will locate where my entry is for, in this case, my test template. And very carefully I will be removing the comma and all of the curly brackets all the way up just before the last comma. So I will not be removing the last comma from the previous entry, because as we've said, it goes curly brackets are telling reMarkable this is the content of one of the templates. Then it has a comma, and it tells reMarkable there's another element after this. There's another template after this. And then you have another curly brackets thing inside. Hopefully that makes sense, because that's why this is like that. So in this case, the only case when you don't need a comma is for the very last element. If there's no comma, then that's pretty much it. In this case, I've intentionally placed it in the middle so that you see how it looks like if it's there. So I'm going to remove the comma here and all the way up until the last one, delete, and now I have perspective 2, curly brackets, comma, and curly brackets for my YouTube template, which is exactly what I want. And since my YouTube template is the last one, I do not have a comma, I don't have anything after the last element. So I can just press Ctrl Save to save it, and I can log out of this and test things out on my reMarkable. Congratulations! If you follow these steps correctly and carefully, you should be able to now have a brand new template in your reMarkable that you've made on your own and you've placed there on your own. And I hope that this video helps you feel a little bit more confident about certain operations, and certainly a lot more confident and empowered about the ability to use this software without the need for another company telling you that you're not skilled enough, because you are. It doesn't really require that much skills. It just requires a tiny bit of confidence and somebody to help you along the very first time. And hopefully this video has done that. Now, before I sign off, I just really want to reiterate the word of warning here. When you are inside of the reMarkable, please, please, please be very, very careful about what it is that you're doing there. This is not to scare you off, this is simply to warn you to be cautious and to be mindful about what it is that you're doing. So take your time, do things one step at a time, double check your work so that you are absolutely certain. And if something happens, if you follow these things along, you will have your template's backup copy. All you need to do then is just copy it back into your reMarkable, and presto, you will be back where you are. Needless to say, I can hold no personal responsibility for any damage or any mistakes that you might make. Hopefully you won't. There's the Facebook group, and you can leave comments here, and I'll try to help out as much as I can. But please be aware that what you are doing here is your own own personal responsibility, and I can't be held accountable for your personal actions. I gotta do that, so because there's lots of different people out there. With that being said, I hope that you're able to now feel better and that you are more powerful and that you are able to create your own templates and take full control over the reMarkable device. And as always, please like and subscribe if you like this video, and see you next time. Bye!